Welcome to my kitchen. Just felt like I've been wanting to make some English muffins for a while, and I found a recipe that made it look very easy, thanks to Kate Davidson. It's not her recipe, but she made them look easy. So maybe the bread making life is not for me. We'll find out. I thought I would just kind of talk while I do this. If you know anything about me, or know me in real life, you know that I like to pay attention to the directions. I don't always follow them, but I pay attention to them. But especially when it involves baking, very small mistakes can ruin everything. I'm not making small mistakes. This recipe is actually from the Preppy Kitchen, and I'm going to start by getting all my ingredients together. Ugh. Honestly. Maybe cornmeal, milk. I almost forgot water. Now I've got everything. I gotta figure out how much I need. I've always wanted to be a writer. I don't know how that started. Maybe it was just like a love of books. My mom always took me to really cool bookstores, and we moved a lot when I was younger, so we went to a lot of different bookshops. And I loved writing stories about these maybe sisters or other young people who would end up having somehow a brood of children that they were responsible for. And tons of these stories. It's possible I just maybe had a lot of time to myself to create and think about things, but I digress. This is what I have. And these are the same. We're gonna make it work. Would have been like whatever my parents were watching. So probably Star Trek, Star Wars, and then like sitcom stuff. I had no idea what I wanted to like be when I grew up. No idea. I didn't really know that people could be writers or whatever. I went to college and I think I had like 3 different majors. Marginally better success with these. My first major was English. My second major was journalism. And my third major was something called recording industry. I think when I was there, the majority of the people attending that school were like in the music business program. My first semester, I had to like carry around this giant, like full-size keyboard. That is hard. A lot of my professors were saying, you know, you should probably change majors. Not like to me specifically, to basically anyone. We're just being real with you. There aren't enough jobs. All of us thought we were the exception and not the rule, so all of us just continued on that program. I was able to get an internship with a company called Sony Music Nashville. What? I just loved it, and I interned in like the international marketing department. So I was like, this is great, and I think I switched over to tour marketing. At the time on MySpace, you still had to like approve friends manually, and I think you could only do like 10 at a time. So go into these artist accounts and just like sit there and approve for pages and pages. Like you couldn't bulk add. People couldn't just follow you. You had to approve them, even for like legit accounts. This was like the early days of social media, so it is what it is. One of the girls who worked in my department had a friend who was looking for a PA, which is a production assistant. I went over that day. It changed my life. I didn't love that job. First job's not the best, but you gotta get your foot in the door and just make the most of your experience. Basically be behind the scenes of a live TV show. Combine the milk, water, and sugar. It's a good thing I bought this candy thermometer like 2 weeks ago. So I'm really curious to see if they're not gonna be fluffy because I'm using almond milk. I ended up having probably a few months where I wasn't working at all. And I was trying to just figure out what I wanted to do, what could I do with this degree, what was I interested in. And I applied for a position that said something like they wanted somebody to go on the road. And he was like, yes, sir. Like, I would be going on the road literally that weekend with a major country artist, and essentially my job was mobile marketing, which was still kind of new. You guys, I had a trio. This is what a trio was. No iPhone was not out. It was very close to being out, but it was not out. It was a whole thing. So the weekend comes, and they're like, come here, with your bags. You'll be gone for the weekend. I think the first stop was going to be at like Virginia Beach. Tour marketing. I get into one of these buses, and they are those amazing tour buses with like the whole front part is like seating area. There's a flat screen TV and big windows, and there's a mini fridge that is stocked every day, depending on the stage setup. Sometimes I would be on stage, like you probably couldn't see me, but I was on stage. But I did get to experience even more of the tour marketing, like lifestyle and how that went around. I got to meet the tour managers. I got per diem. I got to learn about, when things happen, just like by virtue of being there. And I kind of loved it. I ended up going on another tour that same summer and just kind of going back and forth between the two. But a job is a job. So now I'm putting in the yeast. I don't even actually remember where I left off. Combine the flour and salt in the bowl of your mixer. Oh my God, this is so great. Basically, I had a great time on tour. I realized that wasn't the life for me, but I didn't really have anywhere else to go until I got a phone call from a friend who I had worked with on the TV show. I think I need this. Siri, what does a paddle attachment look like on a KitchenAid mixer? A metal triangle with a round tip. That also looks like it. Is this? It's this guy. So I'm putting in the flour. And salt. It's not that much salt. So my friend calls me. And it's like the day after Thanksgiving. You can see it's foamy. Oh, that disappeared. I assure you, it is happening. Pause. Honestly. Damn it. It's what we have. Stop it. I'm transferring this to a oiled bowl. Ugh. This is what we have. Oh my gosh. We'll cover with plastic glove to double in size in a warm spot for about an hour. So 12:47. So I'm gonna take a break and eat lunch. And let's get back to the story. Still have about 20 minutes before the dough was even remotely ready. So I got a call from a friend who I'd met working on the TV show. She worked at a place in Nashville that is very hard to get into, in that you kind of have to know somebody. I was being hired to essentially replace her as the assistant to the creative directors, and there were two at the time. And it was supposed to just be a 2-week job. I thought I had kind of hit the jackpot. I was like, this is a place I've heard of my whole life. I don't know about this role, but I was kind of into the idea of being an assistant. I just felt very welcomed and like, this is the place for me. Like, this is amazing. It sucks I'm only gonna be here 2 weeks. But I ended up staying there. And my whole story I used to say all the time is that I came for 2 weeks and I ended up staying for 10 years. Which is accurate. Being an associate producer allowed me to start writing scripts and, being involved more creatively, making promos. I was working with some of my favorite people still to this day. I got to learn just a ton of stuff being on set, being in a recording studio, being a part of the filming process, being a part of the edit process. A lot of things were really siloed, so it also gave me a lot of insight into what it means to work with production company, creative agencies, ad agencies, and also see the corporate side of it. And honestly, that went on for a while. That was probably where I was going to be when I just decided it wasn't for me anymore. I just want to do so much more creatively that is just not happening here. Look at what we've got. I am so excited with how it's looking. I feel like if it only does this, then that's a little success on its own. But we know that is not the end of the story. We're going to pat out the dough on a floured surface just under 1 inch thick. Floured surface. Here I am about to put cornmeal on it. Back with the flour. It like feels pretty warm, like science is happening. So I'm at that job and I'm not loving it. It happened that not loving it coincided with layoffs. Oh shit. It's so sticky. I had mixed emotions about it because I had wanted to leave. It actually worked out a little bit in my favor because I worked there so long that I was actually going to get severance. I don't know if this is like the right or wrong thing to do, but I feel like I'm going to use this rolling pin just because it's not rolling for me. When you get laid off from a place, especially if it's your first time, it can feel personal. It can feel like this is an opportunity for a fresh start, right? So that's kind of where I was. I was pretty much thinking like I'm going to freelance. I'm not going to get into some staff position immediately, no matter the money. I don't know if it would have been like, here's a ton of money. Like, I've never been in that situation where I've had to choose between getting paid really well for a job and it being maybe like the worst like job ever. I haven't had that experience, so even though I think I know what I would do, who knows? All right, we have to cover these and then let them sit for another 30 minutes. I started Essayem Creative that summer. I didn't really work a ton. Since then, I've just been able to work freelance in a variety of different agencies. I decided kind of recently to move more into video editing. Learning it on my own reinforced my interest in that being a way I want to tell stories. We all have such interesting paths to where we're at different points in my career. I just wasn't sure that I was on the right path, and I wasn't sure where that path would lead, or what I really wanted. I knew that I like had to survive, right? But like I didn't want to get stuck. I didn't want to be a cog in the machine, but I also didn't want to sacrifice too much or be doing a ton of stuff that I wasn't interested in just to make a paycheck, or just be so focused on being so creative that I wasn't earning much or I was getting taken advantage of. And I think that can be a really challenging part in your life. And you're like, what do I do next? It can be terrifying. It doesn't have to be that way.
Here you can see our little guys after they've proofed a little more, and then they're off to the cast iron skillet on a bed of cornmeal. I love watching it like this. You really get to see them rising in a way that I did not really experience when I was cooking them. And here they are resting a little bit on the counter.
So it is the next day. I am super excited with how these little English muffins turned out. They look exactly like they're supposed to. So let's have one. First, English muffins always taste better to me when you toast them. I also have some kosher salt here and a little bit of unsalted butter. Some taste. That's so good.
You can't believe I'm about to share this.